back together. Okay, we'll get it set up back together. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do a little bit of an exercise where we're going to do a breakout in a moment at your teams. But before we do, I just want to hear one of these connectivity scripts. Right? So Sandra, you're going to go for it, right? Yeah, you're going to go for it. So there we go. All right. So let's set this up. I'm going to play the role of am I a prospect? Am I?
You're a prospect.
I'm a prospect. Okay, perfect. So we're going to go through it just like Pearson did yesterday, and I'm going to give some feedback to Sandra with your help. All right? So you ready to go?
As ready as I'll be.
Okay, I'm going to pick up the phone. Here we go. Good morning. This is Dave.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Harser, and I own a company called Bright Ideas.
Sandra, what can I do for you in Bright Ideas today?
Dave, I just want to call and congratulate you, as I understand that your company is celebrating its 10th anniversary next year. This is quite an achievement, and I'm wondering how you plan to promote this within your company and to your marketplace.
Well, we're pretty excited about it, Sandra. We're really excited. So help me out here. What does this have to do with your company?
Okay, Dave. Well, I'm calling you because our company specializes in helping corporations devise a plan for branding items as commemorative gifts to celebrate this milestone. I would very much like the opportunity to spend some time with you to learn more about your company and be able to put together a customized plan of action. How is your schedule this Tuesday at 11 or next Wednesday at 2?
Okay, we're at a roll. What do you think, team? I'm going to start with Sandra. What do you like? What did you do well?
I said it.
How was the heart rate? Is it pretty good?
Yeah.
Yeah, was it up?
It's up. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you what, your pace was phenomenal, right? Yeah, your pace. Oh, it was very steady, right? Very steady. And I did something that I did to Pearson yesterday, which is so what has this got to do with your company? And you didn't even flinch, right? Just kind of went right into the value proposition, gently walked me through it without a problem. Yeah, well done. I thought that was awesome. So from the floor, what do you think that Sandra did well? Yeah, nice pauses, right? And pace was pretty darn good, right? Yeah, really good. Really good. Anything else that resonated with you?
She was confident and specific, so she had a display of confidence because she was, she could solve a problem, she was speaking at a good pace, she wasn't stuttering, she wasn't...
Yeah.
And then she was very specific on her commitment to action because basically these are the times I'm available.
Love it.
She must be really busy because she can 9 a.m. to 2.
There you go. Yeah. So you thought through it. I felt like you kind of understood what was going on. Would I be proud of that? Sure, right? I'd be proud of that. And value proposition didn't get too much into product. It got talking about, how we make that come alive. Yeah, well done. Anything you'd tweak, do differently?
I don't know. I think that was okay. I'd have to work a little bit to see if it...
Listen to the
It'll
client.
depend on how people respond back.
Yeah.
We'll see how...
Just do your introduction again, Sandra. Just drive your introduction again. So if I said, hello, this is Dave, just do your introduction.
Good morning. Should I say Dave?
Yeah.
I should, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Good
I think-
morning, Dave. My
there you
name is
go.
Sandra Harser, and I own a company called Bright Ideas.
What do you think? So the first time, didn't get the name in there, right? That's cool. You get the name in there, and if you get the name in the second spot, is that demonstration of preparation, right? Where you can kind of bring that name, Dave, hey, congratulations, I understand, right? You can drive it in there a couple of times. Good exercise?
I like the fact that she throws it home. Right away, it separates her from other people calling. She throws in owner.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like that?
I like that. Because now you're at a different level when you're calling someone.
Yeah. You as the owner, right? You as the owner, operator, or president of your company, right? Yeah. All those things, doesn't matter, right? Yeah, I really like it, Okay. Here's what's really cool about stuff like this. Let's say you're the only person that's called me to congratulate me about this upcoming anniversary. Nobody else has. Not one of my suppliers, right? That could just be a subtle, unique point of differentiation. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of a speed exercise. We talked about this yesterday. I've been You know, we've done all this practice with no objections. Do you get any objections? Okay, so let's just go through your objections. What are our top 4 or 5 objections that we get? Okay, there's one, too busy. David, that was yours? Too busy, your table's got too busy. All right, what's another one? We don't have the budget?
We don't have, I don't know if it's true, but no, sorry, we don't buy promos. I'm like thinking to myself, no, we don't buy promos. Every company buys promos, one way or another, right?
Do you want that one?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one you got. All right, that's the one you got. Okay, what's this one?
We've already put together all our programs.
Perfect. Team, you've got that one. You got that one. All right, so we got 1, 2, 3. And you can have the same. You can duplicate if you like. Karen, what's going on with you? What do you get as an objection?
I couldn't hear what some of the others were, so I may repeat.
You can duplicate.
We already deal with somebody?
Happy with my current supplier?
Yeah.
Already dealing with somebody in that stuff. Roz, what do you face?
No budget.
No budget's a beauty. All right, every table's got one. What do you want, Steve? David, what do you want?
All the budget.
All right. Happy with the supplier. Okay, team, little process for dealing with objections. Okay, going to walk you through it. Let's take a look at it. It's in your guide, and we can just see it on the next page, all right? So you're going to see something called Understand, Address, Check, Anticipating Objections. So, a little bit of a process. What do people want to feel if they object? If they're kind of saying, I'm too busy to meet with you, or I'm happy with my existing supplier, what do they want to feel from a salesperson in that moment? They want to feel that you heard them. Okay, so a lot of salespeople will bypass it. What a salesperson needs to do is to hear it. And if I hear it, then I'm going to do what? I'm going to say it back. That's what we call understand, right? So, Roz, if you say to me, Dave, listen, I appreciate the call, but I'm just so darn busy right now, I need to understand that. Roz, I understand. I understand that you're busy. I understand that you've got a lot going on in your business, right? So I want to empathize with the fact that you said that. I'm happy with my current supplier. I understand that you have somebody currently working with you right now. I respect that. Okay? So that is key, because what I'm doing is I'm respecting your position. Now, then I want to address the objection. So I understand you're busy. Now, if you're working with a company that's growing and expanding and they're doing all these wonderful things in the marketplace, do you think they're busy? No. Right. Is that why you're calling them? So it's almost like we want to go on the offensive here a little bit. You know, Steve, I understand you're busy. In fact, that's why I'm reaching out to you today. A lot of my customers are busy, and I actually work with them to help them sometimes do things more efficiently and effectively. Now, that has to do with how they go to market or whatever that is, but more than ever, I want to meet with you, right? And then the check is simply what? I'm going to ask you for what? I'm going to ask you for the commitment again. Now, I said yesterday, a lot of salespeople tend to run from objections. They run from them. You know, they kind of say, okay, you're busy, I'll call you in 6 months. I don't know, if I said I was busy to you and you're going to call me in 6 months, I might say, well, how interested were you in really meeting with me? You got to fight for me a little bit. You got to show some what I call professional tenacity. And that's what the opposite, I think, of a great sales professional will do. It's like somebody says you're not interested. I asked you yesterday, if somebody was not interested in wanting to meet with you, would you be disappointed? I would be. I'd be disappointed. Yeah. Okay. You got your assignments. Here's what I'd like you to do. Well, your assignment is your objection, right? That you chose. I'd like you just to kind of script it out as a team. Now, the way you can do that is you can get together, you can each write it out, or you can assign somebody that can write neat. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to script it out and just talk about how we would strategically approach this objection using the process understand, address, check. Key is not everybody's going to say yes. Not everybody's going to say yes. but we want to professionally deal with the objection. We want to fight for them a little bit. And even if they were to say, no, I'm not interested, the game is not over, right? It's just right now they're not interested. Let's just take an attempt to see if we can overcome that objection. At least if they hang up the phone after, we leave them kind of kicking the sand, kind of going, you know, maybe I should have had that meeting. And we're going to talk about keep in touch strategy when somebody doesn't want to meet with you. Because I've always had this kind of tenacity feeling in sales. I'll just throw it out to you. Until you call security, I'm coming after you. All right? So that's it. Okay? Until you call security, I'm coming after you. Right? Well, you never know. Okay, so let's see what we come up with. Understand, address, check. Okay. Going to bring us back gently here. How are we making out with this?
I think we did okay. It's hard.
It is hard. But here's what I think happens, right? I think we sometimes start to make this stuff up in the moment. Anticipating objections is about knowing what some of that resistance is going to be and being well prepared to deal with it professionally. Not everybody's going to want to meet with you, right, today. But you professionally want to protect your brand and your integrity, and you want to have something to say to them other than just going, okay, I'll call you in 6 months. Which really says, I'm not that interested, right? Anybody want to take one of these on? Anybody want to go for it? Yeah, what's the objection, Steve?
We came up with, we'll do that one. We came up with one that we hear, just send me some catalogs.
So send me out some stuff.
I fight with salespeople because they consider that a positive. And I'm like, that's the biggest objection in our industry. Just send me some catalogs. Well, Dave, I'd love to send you some catalogs. Do you have a look at that? Well, we represent over 5,000 suppliers, because I'm going to call my trucking company, and I've got to get a trailer, and they're going to show up at your door. And right away, human, right? Right away, there's my, you know what, Dave, you know what, it won't be there. Why don't we meet and we discuss your needs? Because I run things a little bit differently. Again, your wife, your girlfriend might give you a shot unless I'm not there for that. You're too busy. I'm going to save you time, and I'm going to save you money. Let's get together and talk about it.
Okay, can we do part of that a little more gentle, Steve?
That's not Steve's.
So you got a couple of pieces here that I like, but let's think about it. If somebody to say to you, can you send me some stuff? Is there an opportunity to ask an open-ended question?
Yes.
Yep. What could that open-ended question be? If I were to send you something right now that would really grab your attention, something that would really interest you, what would you like to be looking at? Is that fair? Like, can I ask that question?
Yeah.
And that way, at least if I do have to send you some stuff, I'm sending you some stuff that's relevant to what you're saying you need.
Half a truck.
Right?
Pens.
But I like where you're going here, because the piece that Steve did is he took it back to where? Because your objective is really to do what? Meet with them. And you did bring it back to that. Hey, you know what? I can send you stuff. I got lots of stuff I can send you, but the purpose of this call is not about really sending you things. It's really about having a chance to learn about your business. Let me do what I do best, get a better understanding of what you do, so that I can make some recommendations, right? That's really what I want to do here today. So I'm not here to sell you some stuff today. I'm really here just to get to know your business so I can make some recommendations. I think there's a big difference between those two things, don't you? Yeah. So you got some nice pieces in here. Be careful with the girlfriend and the wife and all that kind of stuff. Okay, there you go. All right. All right. There you go. Now, nice one over here, Karen. I like it. Okay. I do. This is where I say, hey, Karen, I appreciate your call. We have a supplier, and I'm quite happy with them.
That's great, Dave. I know how difficult it is to find a strategic partner who's reliable, provides innovative, measurable campaigns to meet your objectives. Since we made this connection, would you object to me touching base with you another time?
What do you think? Yeah. Now, the front piece of this is kind of cool, because she's not beating up the current person. She could be putting some doubt in my mind. These guys aren't a strategic partner. What, are you kidding me? Right? You could be, right? There is an emotional connection, and here's the emotional connection. And this will happen to you as well, team. Whether somebody in their relationship likes you or not, I will guarantee you they will always tell your competition that they're happy with you. So sometimes they'll say, hey, we've got a supplier, and they'll kind of go, and we're happy with them because even if they're not, they're kind of going, I don't want to tell you that I'm not happy with them. But I like that front end piece. Now the second piece is one that I kind of use. It's what I call social evidence. Let me ask you this question. Social evidence or story selling. How many of you have actually had an experience where you have a customer who was a prospect, who was happy with their current supplier, but they're now working with you? So you've had that happen, right? So they were working with somebody, they were happy with somebody, they're now working with you. So technically what they did at some point is they gave you a chance to come on in. Is that fair? They gave you a chance to give them maybe a different look, a second opinion, get some further insight. That's what we call story selling. And you can use that. Karen could use that in the address. Hey, Dave, respect the fact that you have a supplier. It's important to have a strategic partner in your business. In fact, Dave, I've had many customers say to me they were quite happy with their current supplier. They did, however, give me a chance to do what I do best. Come in and really understand their business, share some insight on some of the things that we're doing differently in the marketplace, and I'd very much like to do the same for you. So that's another way you can approach that one. Is that fair? Yes, Steve.
Okay with that? Because I love what she says. Is it okay to go back to them with an open question, like something like that? You know, do you mind me asking what makes you so happy with the current supply?
Yeah, this is a really good question, Steve. I'm glad you brought it up. We always have a 50-50 on this, right? Because if all of a sudden I say, hey, Steve, yeah, there's a lot of things I like about them. Their service is impeccable. They get things to me on time. They've really helped us with some key initiatives.
And so on your last order, do you sit down on a regular basis with them on a 6-month period, you know, to plan out the following events coming through?
Yeah, in fact, we meet with them quarterly.
You meet with them quarterly, great.
Yeah.
And what things do you discuss?
Well, we talk about upcoming projects that we have, and we talk, so where I'm going with this is that, you see where I'm going? It's great, I see where you're going. It's a 50-50 because you could put doubt in my mind, but I could have an exceptional relationship with them, right?
But now I leave, I have a 15-minute conversation with you.
Yeah.
I have a paragraph in my CFM of everything that they do for you.
Yes.
I've already done the research, so I have other contacts in your company, so that, you know,
Yeah.
I can contact the other one. And my last thing is, that's a great relationship. I really appreciate your time. If that relationship should ever wane, or if there comes a time that they can provide me something long, I would love the opportunity to discuss it.
Love it. And so there's no kind of right or wrong on this. You could attack them many, many ways, right? Just keep in mind that a lot of people will protect their relationships. Let's just think about somebody if they asked you that, one of your customers, that question. If I said, hey, you know, your competition called me and I'm working with you. And what would you want me to say in that moment, right?
I would want you to tell them who you are and how happy you are.
Yes.
That's what I tell them.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I find when they get the message is when you ask them specifically who they're dealing with.
Right.
If you ask them generically what makes them happy, they're less. And eventually it'll come out.
So let's think about this question then. Let's think about this question, because this is a good one. If you don't ask the question about the specific supplier, but you asked it at 30,000 feet, and you said to me, hey, Dave, just out of curiosity, what is important to you in a relationship with a supplier that's helping you with your branding strategy? Now there's no emotion in it. I like that question. Now it's kind of like, well, here's some things that are really important to me. You know, I wanted to ask you that because that's an area that, right? And now you're in it. Perfect. Now you've removed the emotion of it. Opposed to saying, hey, Dave, what do you like about that supplier? Now I'm connected emotionally. So I think we got a piece of this. This is really good. So team, here's the place I'd like to land on this exercise. We're not going to script out the perfect result here. What I'd like you just to consider is always paraphrase back what you heard, think about what you're going to say, and check to see whether you've dealt with the objection by asking simply for the commitment to move forward. That's it. Now, is everybody going to say yes to us? We do know this: if we have a strong key influencer strategy with referral business, our probability for conversion is going to be very high to get in the door because we have that warm introduction. However, if our eyes are dropping on a company in the marketplace and we're calling them for the first time, we've done our research, the probability of conversion rate is going to be lower. But is it over if they're not interested right now?
Not necessarily.
So what do? We hang up the phone and I kind of say, I'm not interested, I'm happy with my current supplier, you've tried to deal with that, you can't, we politely say goodbye to each other. What do you do next?
Send them a note.
Yeah, when do you send them that, Roz?
You just thank them for their time.
Yeah, little touch point, thanking them for their time, reinforcing what you wanted to speak to them. Now let me ask you, team, do you have any things in your repertoire of what I call high-value touch points? What do you think I mean by that? So I'm not interested right now, but just a little high-value touch point, right? So it could be a gift, high value. Do you have any articles, things that you have, white papers about marketing, branding, anything like that? Do you have any of those? That's what I call a high value touch point. And it's just simply thanking somebody and then maybe sending that little article and saying, hey, I thought you'd be interested in reading this, Steve. You know, paragraph 2, whatever. And we're just periodically touching them with high value. Hoping that what? Yeah, our name is top of mind. How many of you have had somebody in the sales pipeline, sales cycle for 2, 3 years, and all of a sudden, boom, one day they called you? They probably called you because somehow you stayed present. You grabbed some mind share, right? You stayed present. And that's, you know, the formula of selling to me is a combination of skill and will. Your capability and your tenacity. You get both of those going, you're in a pretty good spot. Jack?
Yeah, David, in that follow-up, would you also confirm, do you mind if I stay in touch? And I'd love to have an opportunity to call you 2 months down the road, 3 months, and if they say yes, great. And then at that time, inevitably, with what has happened, I'm glad you called because I want to give you a shot here with this.
Yeah.
And I can't believe the number of times that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just, I call it professional tenacity, right? You're just hanging around, you're asking permission. But anytime you can kind of send somebody a little touch point, something of value that is educational or something they can read, you're just hanging around, right? You're just hanging around. I love it. And then you're staying in touch. I mean, I would imagine all of us in this room have won that opportunity where we said, wow, 2 years have been invested in this. And finally they say yes. Well, that's just professional tenacity. That's just staying in touch. Now, what would be a low-value touch point? Because salespeople do this, and they're notorious for it. What do? You call back in 6 weeks, and what do you say? Hi, it's me again. Yeah, just touching base. Just wanted to see if anything's changed. No, nothing's changed, man. We're still happy with our existing supplier. So that's what happens, right? Those are low-value touch points. Salespeople are notorious for doing that. Just thought I'd check in and see if anything's changed. Hey, it's just me again, just wanted to check in. Well, there's no value in that, right? So it's making sure that that touch point is of value to your prospective client. Good exercise? Professional tenacity. The understand address check came back to haunt me a number of years ago. And it was actually when my daughter Cass wanted to get her license. She came to, this is a number of years ago. She's always stealing my sales stuff. Never believed that she would have gotten to sales, and she did, right? She's 16, and she comes to me on her 16th birthday, and she wanted to get her license, her driver's license. So she goes off, gets her license. Then you got to drive for about a year till you're 17, then finally get some independence. But I think it's by the time you're 18, you can take it out there, right? With nobody in there, you can just go. So she comes to me when she's 18, and she goes, Dad, I need a favor. Big one. I said, what's that, Cass? Been invited to a girlfriend's cottage for the weekend. Like, we're 5 days out, and we got a problem. One of the girls that was going to drive us up can no longer get a vehicle. We got a lot of stuff, Dad. There's 3 of us. And we're meeting 2 of my girlfriends up at their cottage. I need your truck. Can I borrow it? And I said, no. There's the objection. She then throws the understand check at me. Hey, Dad, I understand. I understand that this would be a huge responsibility for you as a father to lend me your truck for the weekend. Dad, I want to let you know I get where you are. How's that for the understand? A little empathy. Then she does a little story selling. little story selling. She goes into a dress and she says, I'm going to take you back a lot of years. I want you to go on the journey with me. Just step back. Don't look at my situation right now. I want you to step into your shoes right now when you were 18. You went to my grandfather, your father, and you asked them for the car on a Friday night. And Dad, he said, no. How'd you feel? Get my situation out of your mind right now. I said, well, I felt a little like he didn't trust me. Felt a little embarrassed that I couldn't get the car. I hear you, Dad. And then she hits me with the check. So what do you think? Is it time? Is it time that your little girl demonstrated to you that she's a responsible young woman? And I said, no. I didn't say it was always going to work, right? I didn't say it was always going to work. That's it. So a little understand address check, okay? So team, be prepared for the resistance. That's all I'm asking you to do. Professional tenacity. Protect the brand. Not everybody's going to say yes, but people will remember you for your effort, and they'll remember you for your commitment to follow up with them, right? That's the key. A lot of salespeople run from opportunities. So that's the piece. Yeah, David. What's that? I didn't get the truck, no. I stood firm. Yeah. Jack.
When that professional tenacity takes hold with a perspective,
Yes.
and they then are able to project out and say, this is the kind of guy I want fighting my corner.
Yes.
That's when product is being negotiated, when things are being delivered, and if you show that tenacity, you're
That's it.
then going to say, maybe this guy's a little better, and that might show contrast to who they have.
I love it. So I think what I'm hearing here is that a byproduct of your behavior, if you're well organized and you're showing up on time to a first meeting with a prospect, they're probably looking at you going, this person's probably well organized and will show up on time when I'm in a relationship with them. If I'm dealing with a salesperson that has that professional tenacity and that non-give up, this is kind of the behavior they probably have when they're working with their clients. So you're demonstrating that byproduct of who you are in that moment, right? I love it. Yeah, really good. Okay, now we've built a couple of scripts. I'm hoping that the work that you did in this workshop does not get lost in the handout, right? Because a lot of stuff when people come through learning workshops with me, ultimately it gets lost in the handout. How many of you did, for this exercise, build a connectivity script for a real prospective customer that you would like to meet with? Okay? So you did the work. This has got procrastination written all over it, right? You've got to now take that work and go, right? And just think about this. Think about that prospect right now. They won the lotto. I asked you to think about one person that you wanted to reach out to. And you thought about that person. It's almost like you could say this to them. You call them and you go, I was in this workshop with this guy and he gave me some homework. He said, I want you to think about one company in the marketplace that you would like to meet with. And I thought of you. Imagine that. That's a great script, David. That's not bad. I had one company I could think of and I thought of you. That's not bad. I could use that too. It's pretty good. Right. And then if they give you the objection, you can say, hey, no problem. I already walked through this one. Or you could say, look, can you give me the, I'm happy with my supplier because I only had a chance to practice that one, right? There you go. All right, so whatever you want to pick. Okay, now yesterday we talked about some fundamental steps that a professional salesperson would go through when they're meeting with a prospective customer or a customer. And I like to think about this as the customer interaction or the consultative investigation. But I'm primarily going in there. I've asked for this meeting, and my objective is to do what? Learn about their business. Can anybody remember those steps? Yeah.
Listen.
All right, I'll put them up for you. Here they are. They're going to be in your guide, and what we're going to do is we're going to give you an exercise where you get to prepare for a meeting. Now, there's certain steps that you can prepare for. Team, nothing magical here. As I said, if I went out and observed you on a sales call, I would probably see some of these steps in action. There's some of these steps that get sloppy. There's some of these steps that get missed, and there's some of these steps that we get into too quickly, okay? So let's just take a look at them. Building business rapport. So let's just talk about this. I'm meeting you with the first time. I'm in your office, and there's going to be some kind of greeting. I said yesterday that there's a difference between business rapport and small talk. What's the difference? Yes, Suzanne.
Well, small talk is how's the weather, did you see the football game last night? Business rapport is talking specifically about their business and what's going on and trying to really get a feel for what's happening.
Yeah, so I'm leveraging what I know about you from a business perspective opposed to the small talk. So a lot of salespeople, as I said yesterday, will look around the office and say, hey, I see you like to do this, I like to do that. I'm not taking that from your back pocket. I'm just saying that the opposite is to be able to walk into somebody's office and say to them, hey, Suzanne, really, really excited about meeting with you today. In fact, I just recently read an article where you talked about this area in your business. Congratulations. I'm connecting with you at the business level. Now, we have to remember that some of you have clients that are friends. You didn't create that friendship on the first meeting. It took several years to build that friendship, and you found commonality in your lives, right? So I'd like you to consider, what am I going to connect with you on outside of it's snowing outside and the Jets lost last night? And sorry, Steve. And whatever that is, I'm going to try and take it to a next level. Now, if the prospect says it's snowing outside and the Jets won last night, then get into the conversation, but let them drive the personal rapport. Let's start professionally by sending them a message that, hey, you know what? I know some things about you. It could be as simple as, and here's one that worked for me. I'd actually gone on LinkedIn with an executive that I met with, found out he was very much involved in a charity in his community, and it was something that he had written how much it touched him. And I just kind of said to him, hey, I just said I was really kind of touched by the commitment you made in the community. And you wouldn't believe this guy. He kind of looked at me and goes, nobody's asked me that. Nobody's asked me about that. I said, yeah, I read it. He says, I didn't even know people read my LinkedIn page. And I said, no, I thought it was pretty impressive. Because people read that stuff. I said, I don't know if they read that stuff, but I read it and it was pretty impressive. And we just got off to this great start because he just kind of was very proud of that, and I guess he felt like I took the time to take a look at it, right? So that's just kind of cool stuff that we can do, right? Now, we've got that rapport, and we need to have a meeting purpose. Why are we here today, right? Why do we have to have a strong meeting purpose, team? Set the context for what? What the meeting's about. But it should be aligned with what? So Sandra, your meeting's about what? Your meeting's about their anniversary, and your meeting's also about what?
Celebrating.
How they're going to celebrate that anniversary and how you could help them get there. So is it fair to say if Sandra met with me, she'd say, Dave, as per our call, the purpose of our meeting today is for me to learn more about your 10-year anniversary. It's pretty exciting what's going on in your company. And as I mentioned to you on the phone, I want to learn about that anniversary, how you're going to celebrate it, and share with you some ideas on how we could help you do that. Is that fair? Is that the purpose of the meeting? That's what I agreed to. What do you think? That's it. Now, gain customer commitment to participate. Anybody remember the 3 things that I got to do to get you to participate? What do I got to do?
You're going to speak with that time.
I got to confirm how much time we have invested in this meeting. So Sandra, just before we get started, I just want to confirm that we still have our 45 minutes together. Right? I want to respect your time, and I want to know exactly how much time you have for me because I do not want any surprises. Second thing I need to confirm with you is
Ask questions.
Permission, Roz, to ask questions. During that 45 minutes, Roz, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'd like to ask you some questions so I can really get a better understanding of what your goals are, what your plans are. That's going to really help me be in a position where I can present some ideas to you. Is that fair? Third permission is going to be, yes. Along the way, Karen, just to make sure I capture everything that's important to you, I'm going to take some notes. What do you think? Now, the first 3 steps when I do observational coaching with salespeople are steps that get sloppy. What do you think I mean by that? They just get a little sloppy. They do. Yeah, they get all over the place up in rapport, and then all of a sudden they're talking about stuff, and then they try and find their way to the meeting purpose. What I'm asking you to do is just to become consciously aware of those 3 steps. What you're trying to do is facilitate the meeting. No different than when I started this workshop on day 1. If I did not lay out the agenda on where we're going to go, subconsciously I would have lost you. I got to facilitate the journey. They did an interesting study at the Canadian Professional Sales Association around these 3 steps, and what they found was that customers would simply say this after a meeting: wow, did that salesperson ever respect my time? Wow, they really took the time to find out something about me. Wow, they asked me some really great questions, and they respected the information that they were capturing. And really what they were saying was, that salesperson that was doing that was creating a zone of comfort for that customer. Really cool stuff. Now, 4 is all about effective customer discovery, which is asking great questions. Now, I'm gonna kind of share with you, and you can kind of, you're gonna see this in your guide, and we're gonna prepare for it. But I'd like you just to drop your eyes for a moment on a little technique that I use in discovery on page 18. And I'm going to show you this, okay? Just take a look at it. This is a note-taking technique. How many of you are really good at taking notes? Okay. How many of you take notes? Okay, good. How many of you say to the customer, do you mind if I take notes, but then you don't take notes? I've seen that too. So you do that. What I found in my note-taking was not a bad note-taker, but I found it very difficult to decipher the story of what the customer was telling me. So I use what I call discovery quadrants. And there's 4 of them. So I literally take a piece of paper, and just before I begin to gather that information, I draw a line down the middle and a line across the center of the page. Now that's a little bit action-oriented. Sometimes it creates what? When the customer sees me do that. Yeah, and that's okay, because I want to look different and be different. And there's a little bit of I can see them get inquisitive. They're kind of looking at me going, this is weird, right? So then I break my quadrants into 4. The top, if you're looking at the notes, the top left here is the current situation. And what do you think the current situation is? It's a story. I'm asking questions, but about the current situation. What am I learning about? Where are they in their business right now? Now, what tends to surface in the current situation? That's it. Problems, challenges, opportunities for improvement. So that's what's going on in the current situation. So that's one discovery bucket that I want to explore. So when I'm taking my notes, anything that relates to the current situation is going to be captured in that bucket. Does that make sense? It's in that bucket, and I can see it. Now, at some point, I've got to transition to the desired future state. What do you think the desired future state is? Where they want to be. So what are their goals? What are their plans? What are their projects? Now, if I get this one and I get this one, I'm here right now in the current situation, and they want to be here. What's between those 2 points as it exists today? Look at my hands. What's between those 2 hands? I'm standing on this plateau, and I want to get to this plateau. What's between there? Yeah, so my job is to do what as a salesperson? From moving from there to there. I want to close that gap. Now in sales, we call that, or refer to this as the gap analysis. So I'm going to try and create this gap. You're here and you want to get here. My job is to create a solution that can help you close that gap. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now here's the trick, team. Just before we close the gap, we're going to put some tension on it. Does that make sense? Just think about that for a moment. You're with a doctor, and the doc says, okay, I got the current state where you are with your health. You want to be here. And now they're trying to convince you of their solution to get there. But just before they convince you of that solution, they start to convince you that if you don't do anything about this, what's going to happen? Right? They're creating what I call urgency or tension for change. You see, a lot of people want to change things in their business or do things differently, but they need somebody like you, a consultant, to create that urgency. What if you don't change that? What if you don't do that? What kind of impact would that have on your business? We call that the gap analysis. Now I got the two boxes. What do you think this bottom left-hand corner is here? Decision influence group. I'm asking some questions about what?
Who's going to help get you there?
Whew, Raj, you're on fire. There you go. So who else is involved in that? Who else is concerned about that gap? Who else are you going to rely on? What I want to find out, is there anybody else in the business right now that I need to get to know to help with this? Because I want to get their buy-in as well to who I am and how I can help them. Now, team, I think a lot of people lose sales opportunities because they're not talking to all of the people involved in the challenge. Does that make sense? And then the right bottom corner is customer expectations. What do you think these questions are about?
What are the solutions are they expecting out of what you're doing?
Yeah, what's expected of us? So, if I said to Steve, hey Steve, what's important to you in a relationship with a partner that's going to help you with this? What are you looking for in that relationship with somebody that can help you? What I'm trying to find out, are there anything else that they would really value outside of the gap? So what happens if I said this? You said to me, Dave, what's really important to you when you're working with a partner that's going to help you on a project like this? To take this new product to marketplace, to kind of create the branding and the awareness. What's really important to you in a partnership today when you're working with people that are helping with these types of products? Here's my answer. I say to you, service. I'm looking for a supplier that really provides great service. Whew. What would you say to me, team?
We can give you for service.
Ross, give me your answer.
We can give you great service.
Okay. Anybody else?
I would say, what is service?
Okay, so what's the difference? You like it?
Good one. Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is typically where we'll go,
Yeah.
and we'll say, you kidding me, service? I got a t-shirt on right now that says service. Look at that, service, 24 hours. Look at that. What you asked me was a clarifying question. Hey, Dave, what does service mean to you? Well, Steve, what service means to me, I'm looking for a partner that, they can respond quickly. They can respond quickly to us. What does that mean? Anybody want it? What are you going to say? Anybody going to the t-shirt, respond quickly, or does anybody want to know something else? There you go. David, hey, tell me a little bit more about that. Expand on that a little bit. You mentioned service is important to you, but respond quickly. I need somebody to get back to me at a minimum within 48 hours on the status of where our project is. You like that? Now, what's an impact question? This is a cool question. You can do this as a neat way. I like to ask, this is what I call getting that tension for change. Impact question is, David, can you share an example with me where that didn't happen on a project and what kind of impact that had in your business? Now I got some pain. You like that? Now after I get all that, what am I going to do with it? Got all that, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to start presenting yet? What am I going to do?
Offer solutions.
Just before I go to solution. That's what I'm going to do. So Steve, let me just make sure I get this right, man. Service is important to you. What service means to you is responsiveness. Somebody getting back to you within 24 hours. In fact, you shared an example with me today where that didn't happen. And here was the impact on your business. Anything else that I need to know about service? No, we're good. Like that? Now, I am tempted to go to solution, but I got to hang on for dear life here right now. I don't want to go to solution quite yet. Now, what do you think of the quadrants? Like them? What happens if I'm in the middle of this meeting and I only got one of those buckets full? Not necessarily, Roz, because I can say what? I only got one bucket full. I better get on my horse and get to another bucket. What happens if the customer starts right off the bat and says, in 2018, we want to move our business there. Which bucket are they moving me to?
Desired.
Desired. Is it okay to stay with them there? Even though I haven't done current yet? Sure, I can go find it. But at some point, I got to do what? I got to bring it back. That's what I love about it. So I got the desired future state now. I just got to bring it back to the current because I got to build the gap. Now, here's what happens, team. When I start doing this, I'm making notes. Let's say I fill up the current bucket on my notes. I got no more room to write in the current bucket. What do? Trick question. Turn it over. Who said turn it over? I turn it over, and then what do? Draw down a line and across again. Now, at this point, sometimes what happens to me is people say some really crazy stuff. What do you think they say to me? That's what they say. What you doing? And what do you think I say? I'm taking notes. That's always got to be your first answer, Ross. Then they'll say what, David? I know you're taking notes. Then I'll share it with them. Then I'll just turn it and say, Roz, here's what I'm doing. You've helped me really, done a great job here. You've helped me understand where you are in your business today. You mentioned this, this, and this. You've really shared to me where you want to be. You've given me a really good idea of who you're going to depend on to help you get there. And you've also helped me understand what you expect of me. What do you think? And it lays out a beautiful picture. Now, if I send them a meeting, an email after the meeting, can I refer to those notes? And I can put it right back out there again. And sometimes I actually send the quadrants. Just type out the quadrants. People kind of go, looks different. They haven't seen this before. This guy's kind of weird. And that's okay, right? That's okay. So today we're going to practice using these quadrants. And it's going to feel a little weird when you're practicing using them. But it's a very powerful technique to get people engaged in what I call effective client discovery. Now, we know that step 4, let's just go back to it. Step 4 is discovery. Step 5 is understand the customer's priority needs. So we want to summarize, and we also want to get them to prioritize what's important to them. Step 6 is making our recommendations. A recommendation may not be us closing the product today, but it could be simply presenting a next step solution. Anytime we present solutions, we need to kind of present what's the impact of that solution, and finally we're going to ask them for a next step. Now these are the 8 steps. All this is a compass. You are doing a lot of this now. Is it fair to say, though, we sometimes skip a step? Okay, so here's your little test. Let's take a look at our 8. I mentioned to you that 1, 2, and 3 sometimes get sloppy. How many of you feel could tighten that up a little bit? To tighten it up, what you need to become is consciously aware of what you're doing in the moment. So on every sales call that you go on going forward, if I were to ask you the question as your coach, and I said to you, what is the purpose of this meeting today? You need to be able to articulate the purpose of this meeting. If I said, how are you going to connect with this customer today? How are you going to get on the same wavelength, leveraging business rapport and what you know about them? You need to be kind of knowing what you're going to say. Right? So those are the fundamentals of really tightening up 1, 2, and 3. Now, out of the 8 steps, which one of those steps would you invest 50 to 55% of your time in? You've got a 45-minute meeting. Which step would get 50 to 55% of your time? How many of you say step number 4? That is the step. How do you like that? So I'm always looking in a 45-minute or an hour meeting that this step would have in an hour meeting 35 minutes invested at a minimum. That sounds like a long time hanging around in discovery, right? But that's where I am working. Now, team, can I go, well, what step do you think salespeople get into way too fast, way too quick, real fast? Number 6, they go 1, 6. 1, 6, what do you think? That's what they do. 1, 6. Hey, nice to meet you, great weather out there. By the way, let me walk you through what we do. Right? Now, you can't go 1, 6. You have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. However, can you go 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5? Yes, you can. You can go 4, 5, 4, 5. I can be in discovery, summarize what I heard you say, go up and back into 4. Go down into 5, summarize, go back up into 4. I can go 4, 5, 4, 5, but I cannot go 4, 6. Now, why do we go 4, 6? We're in discovery, and all of a sudden we want to go to 6. Why?
Because you're not ready.
Why, Karen?
Well, I think 2 good reasons. One is enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah.
So you get excited because you're hearing things and you know you can help.
There you go.
Help yourself.
Client serves it up on a silver platter. And you're like, oh man, forget that Dave Holt guy. I'm going to 6 right now. Right? Why not go to 6 at that moment?
Because you don't know everything.
We don't have it all on the table. I always think about summary and prioritize as an intersection. Before I enter in to explore solution, I need to have a green light from the client that says, yes, Dave, you got it. That's what we need to do. And at that point, I can go through there safely. But if I get too eager too early, 2 things. 1, it may not be a priority need. 2, I may leave a lot on the table, right? So I want to make sure I've got it right first. And that's the patience of selling.
Just then they're not with you on that journey yet. They haven't come, they haven't caught up to your enthusiasm.
That's right. They're still thinking about some stuff. What happens when you summarize back your understanding to somebody? Hey, if I said, hey, Roz, just want to make sure I got this right. You mentioned this, this, and this. And as you hear me repeat what you said, what can happen? They think, Steve, they think of something else. That's what happens. When we summarize, there's 2 things going on. They're confirming, yeah, and then they're going, and there's also this. And that's what you're doing. And here's what people say to you, about you on 4 and 5. Boy, that person really asked some great questions. Boy, they really got me thinking about some stuff today. Wow, did they ever listen to what's important to me? That's what they're thinking right now. And that could be the unique point of differentiation between you and everybody else that walked in their office that day, right? There's our 8 steps. Here's what we're going to do before lunch. We've got 30 minutes to pull this off. Before we do, any questions on this? Yes.
Solutions.
Yes.
Rarely am I in a meeting where I'm in a position to provide solutions.
That's right.
So it's okay to skip that step.
Now, Karen brings up a great step. Would you skip? So solution can also be, it's a solution or a recommendation. So give me an example if you were to skip it. What did you want to do? What would you want to do?
Well, what I do say is that, once I reiterated what they're looking for, I have some things in my head that I think would be great. I need to go and do background work.
So that's the solution.
And then I, set up the next month.
So let's just play it out. Here's what Karen's doing. So you're basically saying, Karen, you'd say to me, Dave, here's my recommendation on where we go next. What I'd like to do is I'd like to step back from this conversation. I'd like to go back and build out a bit of a proposal on how we would work with you. And be in a position to come back and make some recommendations on how we could help you accomplish that goal. So that's my next step. That's your solution. Yeah. Dave, the benefit of doing that will allow me to kind of think through this and come back and really tailor this specifically to what you said today. So I'd like to get that done in the next 2 weeks. Would we be able to set up our next meeting on this date? There it is. I'm through it. 6, 7, 8. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Now, Karen brings up a good point. Now she's coming back to make the recommendation to me. Where does she start? Ooh, why did you say that, Sandra? Why not just start at 5 or start at 6?
Because you have to continue building your business rapport. You have to reinstate the purpose of why you're there, because they may not remember.
There's a little fist pump. What else? You got to confirm how much time you're going to have for this presentation. You're probably going to want to ask some additional questions that you thought about since you last saw him. And you're probably still going to want to capture some information. Is that fair? So you're actually back in the process again, but it's more of a confirmed process that ultimately, when you get to here, you're ready to go now. There it is. There it is. Don't you wish this was one step? Be easy, wouldn't it? Right? Team, this is working. This is us working. This is us taking an approach where a customer or a prospective customer looks at us in a different light. They don't look at us as a supplier to their business. They look at us as a solution provider to their business. They look at us as somebody that really takes the time to seek to understand first, to be in a position to recommend ideas. And that's why I want you to have the courage to believe that you can meet with anybody in the company if you just behave this process. Right? Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're in your guide. Out of these steps, out of the 8, how many can we prepare? Can you prepare step number 1? Yes, you can. Can you prepare step number 2? Yes, you can. Can you prepare step number 3? Yes, you can.
Well, you can outline the agenda, but what if you can't, what if they say you're not only 10 minutes?
Then you've prepared. Because if I say I only got 10, are you in a good position, Sandra? Because now instead of thinking that you got 45, you know only got 10. That's it. Remember yesterday I said, has this ever happened to you in a meeting? You're meeting with the prospective client, you're right in the middle of your brilliance, and they do this. And then you panic, and a truckload of stuff shows up at the back door. All right, now, yes, you can. Can you prepare step number 4? You can think about some questions you would like to ask. Can you prepare step number 5? No. Can you prepare step number 6?
On the second,
Okay, that's the biggie right there. Because if you prepare 6 and you go in there with a bunch of stuff, I'm not saying you can't have a few things to maybe have in your back pocket, but the risk is what? I'm preempting what you think that you need. Yes. Jack?
There's no cookie cutter solutions here. You're going to be targeting there.
That's it. So if I go in there and I take a bunch of stuff, I'm assuming you need this stuff.
Now you're being a supplier
Now I'm being a supplier.
instead of being strategic.
Right on. Now, saying that, is it fair to say that in my research, there may be some indicators that would suggest that having a few little ideas in my back pocket in case it came up is okay. But I'm only going to pull them out if I need them, right? Can I prepare 7? I don't know what the solution's going to be yet. I don't know what the benefit's going to be because I don't understand the needs. Can I prepare 8? Well, I don't know. I don't know. Now remember, team, I don't want you to be the sales prevention department. If they're standing there looking at you going, here's a PO, here's a contract, and you're going, hey man, like just...
You're ahead of Dave said I hadn't did my 8 steps.
So yes, there are times when you may do that. But the reality is, if we're attacking this as a consultant, what we're really doing is we're seeking to understand first so we can come back and make a recommendation. Right? Now team, I know this happens to you all the time. Right? And I hear the word quote. Somebody calls you up, can you give us a quote? And we send out a quote. How much time and effort does that take you to do that? But we're operating at what? The supply level. So even if somebody calls up and says, can you give me a quote? Can we use some of this stuff? Sure we can. Hey, love to give you a quote. Love to have the opportunity to quote on this. But hey, you know what? Just before we do though, do you mind if I just ask you a couple of questions? Yeah, what do you need to know? What are you doing with this stuff? Well, we want to do this, this, and that. And all of a sudden, everybody else is quoting, and maybe I'm digging around, causing somebody to think and go, hey, that's not a bad idea. And that could be my unique point of differentiation. Right? And it could take price out of the equation. Okay, so, team, here we go. I'd like you to prepare for an upcoming meeting. I want to imagine that you're going to go on a meeting. Okay? That's why I asked you to do that little bit of homework last night. Here's the pages you're going to work. Okay? You're going to see I've got the 8 steps broken down for you. Okay? So I'd like you to go to page 16. Page 16. I'd like you to think about the meeting that you're going on. Based on your insight about what's happening in their business, what is a way that you can connect with that business? How can you connect with that person? Step number 1. Step number 2 is, what is the purpose of your meeting? I'd literally like you, just for this exercise, to script it out. 2, in your own words, if you were to script it out, what would it sound like for you to gain customer commitment? In your own words. You'll notice that I use energy words like capture. Not just take notes. I want to make sure I capture everything that's important to you today. Just an energy word, right? It's not just about, I want to ask you some questions, Steve. Steve, it's important for me to really understand what's important to you in your business. I am going to be asking you some questions, and the more information you share with me is going to put me in a position to do what I do best, right? So that's I'm just going to drill that in. I want to really resonate with my words. So I'd like you to just practice scripting that out. And then on 4, all I would like you to do is think about a couple of open-ended questions. I believe the one open-ended question for sure, prior to going to the meeting, you have to have your first open-ended question ready to go. It can't be too soft, and it can't be too tough, but like I said to you yesterday, team, it can't be this. Tell me a little bit about your business. Somebody's going to hit security. The expectations today with the technology that we have available to is we know about the business. So Sandra, your first open-ended question is going to be, Dave, tell me about your 10-year anniversary coming up. Is that fair? Because that is the purpose of your meeting. And that's going to drive you in the place that you want to go eventually. Right? Sound good? So a little prep, you're going to do 1, 2, 3. You got the working pages. A little bit of 4. What are a couple of questions I can ask? And that's it. Work on that for about 15 minutes, and we'll get ready for lunch. Then after lunch, we'll do a skill belt. We'll tape it. Get the cameras out. Only kidding. What do you think? Good exercise going through this? Okay. Now, I was just saying to Steve, how many of you drive to your office? Okay? How many of you drive to your office consciously competent?
Questionable.
Like you're really aware there's a red light, perfect stop, precision right-hand turn, and you could actually step back and say, you just show up in the parking lot, right? And you go, I got here again, and I hope that nobody behind me is hurt, right? Sales is a little bit like that. Sales process is like that. And I said to a few of you at the tables, where the game really changed for me and my performance team is where I became consciously aware of what I was doing. So there has been times where I've been in the 8 steps and I'm in step number 6 and I'm going and I go like this. Dave, you're in step number 6 and you should really be in step number 4. Get out of here now, get back up into 4. And sometimes with a customer, I might even say that to him. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to just take a quick time out. I'm starting to talk too much about what I do here. Do you mind if I just ask you another couple of questions? And that's okay. Now, it's not like a customer is going to say this to you. You know, you're in step number 8. Right? They're not going to know where you are in the process. They may, though, feel that something is different. Okay? Now, a couple things just on questions. What are open-ended questions? What do they usually start with? How, what, why? Some of the questions that are thoughtful questions, a thoughtful question should cause somebody to do what? If I ask a thoughtful business question, I know it's a thoughtful question because something will happen. What should happen? That's what will happen. If I ask a thoughtful question, it's going to cause somebody to think, compare, and predict. Now, even on an open-ended question of what, why, how, you can answer it with a one-word answer. However, if I change the word to describe, tell me, walk me through, paint me a picture, that can slow you down. If I said to you this, you've really given me a good idea of some of the things that you're planning to. Can you walk me through that strategy? Can you describe to me what that would look like if you implemented that? See what I'm doing? So words like describe, walk me through, paint me a picture, what they do is they halt the answer and they slow the person down to think. And anytime you cause somebody to think, you've created value. You've created value. So if they do go into that silence and they're thinking, we have to do what, team? Yeah. Hang on for dear life. You know? It's kind of like I was observing you sit down with your financial planner and they say this, hey, walk me through your retirement. What does it look like for you? What does retirement look like for you? And you're like this, man, that's a hell of a question. What does retirement look like for me? And you're thinking. And then they say this while you're thinking, are you going to travel? Are you buying a second home? Because if you are, let me show you how we can get there. And they go, 4, 5, 6. Just let them think. Good exercise? Okay, team, here's how I'm going to set this up. We're going to go for lunch. We know what the moving parts are for lunch. We're on our own for lunch. So, we're going to try and be back here at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, we're going to set up a mini skill drill. I'm going to try and get you into teams of 2 and see if you'd like to take the 8 steps for a bit of a test spin. And just see what happens to you. And it's okay to fall off the bike and scrape your knee. I just want you to practice it and go for it. All right? Does that sound good? And we might get 1 round in, we might get 2 rounds in, but we'll just have some fun, we'll practice it and see what happens. And I'd like you just to practice using the quadrants and just practice the process. And it's okay to say to your partner in the middle of this, I have no idea whether I'm in step 1, 6, or 12. Okay, just practice it. All right, back here at 1 o'clock, enjoy lunch.